What's up, YouTube? Today, I want to tackle a topic that's very sensitive for a lot of people, one that a lot of people take very seriously. It divides families, it unites families, there's a lot of money in it, and basically, it's politics. I want to talk about politics and my stance on like politics in general, if whether I vote or not, and just to share my thoughts on it. So, my beginning of politics and my understanding of like prime ministers and presidents started like when I was a young boy. I grew up in the islands in the Caribbean, and I grew up in a small island in the Caribbean, and there was a lot of government corruption going on in the sense that I noticed where the opposition party dominated would not get a lot of resources, they wouldn't get a lot of help, whereas the places where the reigning party dominated, there was a lot of development, a lot of innovation, etc. Like I guess you could put in the blanks for that. So as a young boy, I think I already began losing faith in politics or politicians in a whole. I never had like a close relationship with politics. My mom would vote. The where she grew up was a place where the opposition was, so she would vote for the opposition obviously all the time because she actually kind of knew the guy who was like the running for the politician, and then so they would vote for him. But just seeing the fact that the government could snub people for not being on their side was just enough for me to be like, never really got into it voting. I used to talk about it a lot. I used to have a lot of opinions about what they should be doing for the country, what they should not be doing. However, whenever it came to vote, I never really felt strongly. Fast forward now, I live in America, and it's a little better in the sense that it's a little bit more safer. There's more laws and um there's more of a structure out here to protect people from government corruption. Some of that is falling away as we are seeing if before our eyes. A lot of presidents are coming in seemingly who are abusing their power more and more. There's also forces that seem to be even more powerful than the presidents pulling the strings at times. So it's slowly falling, and I think as a people in America, we better pay some attention to that. But that being said, it's a little better, but it's not good enough for me to even feel strongly enough to vote for the Democrats or the Republicans. I see them as, like there's this reggae musician called Peter Tosh, and he used to use this term called Politricks because in his he also grew up in Jamaica, witnessed firsthand government corruption, and like he was very against politicians, and he was upset with how they would manipulate the people. And that is what I see a lot going on up here on the both sides. Now, if somebody who's watching this video who is more Democratic will accuse the Republicans of this, somebody who is more Republican will accuse Democrats of this. Honestly, as somebody who sits back and looks at the whole thing, I see them both doing it. I see the manipulation of people, the using of people, the like the not like a sincere care for people, especially people who are in suffering situations. It's just more about what makes the government look good, and what makes the more money for the politicians. That seems to what's being pushed right now. More and more politicians subvert the truth for a buck. They subvert the truth for who they want to be in power. They make pardon for criminals because they know them. They try to bend laws to make some of their legal battles look a little better. And because of my stance, I've come under a lot of criticism because a lot of people who they blame people like me, for example, for example, President Trump is in office. They'll blame people like me. They say, well, it's people like me who didn't vote is the reason why he's in power now. And as a black man, sometimes what they would use to make me vote is the fact that Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, uh all these other great freedom fighters, they died. Some of them died, and they got assassinated so I could vote. But my whole stance is this: while they did die for so black people could vote, My question is, vote for what? What really are you voting for? Are you just voting because okay, I can vote, or what did they really die for? Did they die for what's going on right now? You understand? Like, which if somebody could honestly tell me which political party they really can say represents the spirit of Malcolm X, represents the spirit of Martin Luther King, show it to me. I don't see any political party right now who is worth their death, who's worth my vote. My vote for me is precious. And I think why the government has become so big and people are becoming more and more reliant, being more and more nervous of who gets in power is because the people have lost their power and the government officials they're getting too powerful. They're getting people, too much people their lives are dependent on who's in power. And that for me is what people must focus more of their energy to, not not who is voting, who's not voting, and who's in power. It doesn't really, when you really look at the country, who is the one who feels it? When America goes to war, when America goes for a depression, when America goes for anything, who are the people who suffer? In fact, not just America, all over the world. It's the common man on the street, the common man who has a common job, trying to live a common life, has a common house, common car. You the one that's gonna suffer. So all this attention and energy you put into these politicians, sometimes I like my question is like, why? How much more do they have to prove that they're incompetent of saving you? They're incompetent of really caring for people. Now, here's the thing for me. If I do see a regime that comes around and they're genuinely in the business of helping people, improving people, not just helping people, help people right, not scamming people. Like some of these government helps are just long-term scams. Like there was a lot of programs they instituted, for example, in like the black community in poor neighborhoods, where at first it sounded like it was help, but it was like a long-term scam. It was like an investment in something. If I see a government that's willing to help poor people right, help people right, and make decisions on to that help people, then yeah, yeah, it'll be lazy of me not to vote. But as long as the political scenarios in the state it is, like, I don't feel comfortable. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't feel like Joe Biden should have ever been president. Not because he's not an amazing person, and not because he's done a lot for this country, and that's not what I'm trying to say. It's just that at his age, at his mental state that he was in, the fact that he was the one that they could have chose was just was like, wow. You couldn't take nobody else who had a little more vigor, who could have probably beat Trump, because in order to have beaten Trump, you needed to have a bit of spunk in you. The problem with Trump is that even while some people call him stupid, hey, he know how to sell himself. He's a businessman. So I don't feel safe with that. Another thing I don't feel safe is like when Donald Trump made the decision to go bomb those people, in Iran, didn't consult nobody. You understand? And he decided to make the decision on himself. Who, if there was a retaliation, who was going to pay for it? Not him, not the political officials. They good, they in their nice mansion, in their AC and everything. It's you who your children going to have to go to war. It's you when bombs rain down. It's you who's going to be on the receiving of those bombs. And just in my opinion, is that instead of being so conscious and fighting each other over Politricks, we should be more conscious of how we're going to help each other and build back a better human community, not necessarily a political community. So that's my opinion.